Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination Wednesday night. And our big talking point comes from the battle that's taking place in the Middle East. Is an Israeli counter-strike now against Iran inevitable? What are the options for Israel and Iran? We'll have voices from Jerusalem and Tehran joining us. Will the war drag in more countries? Is a big question. Also among my special guests tonight, Sonam Wangchuk is joining us later on in the show today. He's on his way to Rajkot after having been let off from detention. But our top focus once again is on that escalating conflict in the Middle East with Iran and Israel at the center of it. Remember last night, Iran unleashed a barrage of nearly 200 missiles, fueling fears of another escalating war on the brink. Here are the top developments on that crisis. Israel vowing to avenge Iran's unprecedented attack. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu calling it a big mistake, saying that Israel will hit back at a time and place of its choosing. Meanwhile, in Lebanon, Israel confirmed 7 of its soldiers in close-range clashes between Hezbollah and its troops. This is the first officially confirmed deaths since Israel's ground invasion in Lebanon. Israel has declared UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres persona non grata in Israel, banned him from entering the country, saying he stood with Hezbollah and Hamas in the war and has not found ways to stop the conflict with Iran. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei made his first appearance since the strikes on Iran. In his first remarks, he's blamed the regional conflict on American and European allies. He was earlier moved to a secure location after the assassination of Hezbollah's chief. Amidst escalating Israel-Iran tensions, India has issued a travel advisory for its citizens. Says Indians should avoid all non-essential travel to Israel and Iran. Germany, the United States, among many other countries, have also urged its nationals against traveling into Israel at the moment. So our top story comes from Israel at the moment, where, remember, late last night, Iran rained nearly 200 missiles in what is the biggest escalation in the West Asia war so far. Iran claimed this attack was in retaliation to the killing of Hezbollah's chief. Israel has vowed to make Iran pay. Could this now trigger a bigger retaliation? Are we now on the cusp of a bigger war? It's our top focus.
Iran rains missiles on Israel. Nearly 200 missiles light up the night sky on Tuesday, triggering alert signs across major cities and towns of Israel. While most of the Iranian missiles were intercepted by Israel's layered air defense systems, a few did hit their targets. Including key Israeli air bases, as claimed by the Iranian military. Israel says Iran will pay.
Iran made a big mistake tonight and it will pay for it. The regime in Iran does not understand our determination to defend ourselves and our determination to retaliate against our enemies. Sinwar and Deif didn't understand it. Nasrallah or Mohsen didn't understand it. Apparently, there are those in Tehran who do not understand this either. They will understand. We will keep to the rule we have determined. Whoever attacks us, we attack them.
Iran is calling this unprecedented attack revenge for the killing of Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah and others.
Recent evil acts by this criminal regime that martyred commanders and leaders and the great fighter His Excellency Hassan Nasrallah, the oppressed children of Gaza and resilient oppressed people of Lebanon start Operation True Promise 2 with code name O Messenger of Allah.
Iran has warned Israel of a bigger attack if Israel were to retaliate now. This is the most fearsome Iranian attack since the West Asia war first began last year. If Israel hits back at Iran, it could spark a wider war in the region. With Ashraf Wani in southern Lebanon, Bureau Report, India Today.
Is an Israeli counter-strike now inevitable aimed at Iran? What are the options now left for Israel and Iran? Will there be a war between the two countries that will drag in even more into this play? Who will play the peacemaker now, or is that now more and more difficult? I want to first get an Israeli perspective because I've spoken to two guests. Alex Gandler is Deputy Spokesperson, Israel Foreign Ministry, and I've also spoken to the Deputy Mayor of Israel, Fleur Hassan Nahum, joins me also from Jerusalem. First to you there at Mr. Gandler at the Israeli Foreign Ministry. I want to understand, shortly after the Iranian attack on Israel, your Prime Minister said, Iran has made a big mistake tonight and will pay for it. Whoever attacks us, we attack them. Are we to understand that there will be a counter-strike now on Iran by Israel? Is that now almost inevitable, sir?
I can say that there will be repercussions to what Iran did today against Israel. Iran's attack with more than 180 ballistic rockets on Israel is unprecedented, malicious, and there will be a response, and we will choose a way and a time to respond.
Okay, I know you're in probably a bunker somewhere there. That's why the video link that might be slightly problematic. But Mr. Netanyahu addressed Iranians directly, Mr. Gandler, on Monday. He said when Iran is finally free, and that moment will come a lot sooner than people think, everything will be different. Our two ancient people, the Jewish people, the Persian people, will finally be at peace. Our two countries, Israel and Iran, will be at peace. Is Israel not just looking at settling scores with Iran, but also looking for a regime change sooner or later?
Oh, at the end of the day, it comes down to the Iranian people and their decision. The Islamic regime of Iran will come to an end at some point. It is, people keep forgetting, this is not an ancient regime. This regime is from 1979. In our lifetime, and it will end in our lifetime, and people from Iran and Persia will be free. The same thing with people from Lebanon. They will be free from Hezbollah. Same thing with all other people in this region. They will be free from anything that is related to Iran or its proxies.
Many global strategic experts, Mr. Gandler, are saying the Iranian attack has now given Israel and possibly the United States an opportunity to also take out Iran's nuclear capabilities. Is that something that will be considered, or is restraint going to now be first the dominant theme, like was the case in April when there was a similar missile attack, obviously a lesser one?
Well, you need to understand that we have strategic goals. At the moment, our strategic goals are very clear. I think anyone can understand them. In the south with Hamas is to decapitate and drive out Hamas completely from the Gaza Strip, so it will no longer be a military or governing force in Gaza. And of course, most importantly than anything, bring back our 101 hostages that are being held in Hamas captivity for more than or close to a year. In the north, drive Hezbollah north of the Litani River, as per Resolution 1701 by the United Nations Security Council from 2006, and destruction of their capabilities and infrastructure in South Lebanon to attack citizens of Israel that have been displaced for the past year from the north of Israel. So these four objectives are extremely clear. In regards to Iran, you cannot disconnect these objectives from Iran, because when we're talking about Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthis or Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq, we're talking about the one entity, the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps in Iran and Iran itself. So it is all interconnected. There is no, there is a linkage between all arenas we're fighting.
I'm going to leave it there, Mr. Gandler. I appreciate you joining us to give us the Israeli perspective. I know you've got to leave for a moment, but I want to be joined now by Fleur Hassan Nahum. She's the Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem. Ma'am, how do you see the situation now, a day after this missile attack, given the fact that Iran and Israel now see each other in an increasingly eyeball-to-eyeball conflict? Is an escalation inevitable now, ma'am?
Well, we have been in conflict with Iran's proxies for a long time. Iran never wanted to get its hands dirty. Iran armed, facilitated, and created Hezbollah, the biggest terrorists on earth. They did the same with Hamas. They've done the same with the Houthis, and they're doing the same with Iraq. They've destroyed Syria. That's also become one of their proxies. And so Iran is in an attrition war with Israel for a long time. And since April have begun to show their face, mainly to probably show the proxies that they're not cowards. And last night, this country could have been destroyed, be it not for the very advanced technology we have in our air defenses.
But, Fleur Hassan Nahum, you've been saying that Israel has been targeted by the proxies of Iran, whether it's Hezbollah or Hamas, for years now. But the question comes, what happened last night surely takes this conflict to another level. It seems to suggest a more direct confrontation that Iraq is engaging in. Your Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying Iran made a big mistake tonight, will pay for it, whoever attacks, we attack them. Does that mean now that there will be direct conflict between Israel and Iran? Not through the proxies.
I think so. And I think that nobody should be sleeping quiet and well at night until Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, does not have the capacity to create a nuclear weapon, because that is a threat not just to Israel, but to the entire free world. And that really is the crux of the problem. So if it has to be Israel taking out the infrastructure for them to continue to do terrorism, not just here in the region, but across the world, then we will have to do it.
But then what you're saying means that a number of countries will be drawn into this battle. Is that a fear that Israel should have or would have now, that this could spiral simply out of control if these two countries go eyeball to eyeball?
Absolutely. We didn't start this war on the 7th of October. We didn't start the war with Hezbollah on the 8th of October. There was absolutely no reason. There's no territorial claims, apart, of course, from the age-old claim that they want to destroy the entire state of Israel and kill all the Jews here. But apart from that, there were no particular territorial claims. We left Gaza in 2005. We left Lebanon decades ago. And so there was absolutely no reason for these players to start a war with Israel unless they had a bigger plan in mind. And that plan is certainly Iran's plan.
Are the people of Israel, though, now firmly behind Benjamin Netanyahu at a moment like this? When he says, whoever attacks them, whoever attacks us, we will attack them. Are the people of Israel prepared for a conflict that could spiral out of control, that is with a country that has potential nuclear installations? Are the people ready for this war with Iran?
Well, we weren't ready for the 7th of October, but I think that all the country understands that we're facing some very big enemies, and that if we don't destroy them now, they will destroy us later. And so people here in Israel, you have to understand, are very strong, very resilient. Since the beginning of the establishment of the State of Israel, we've had existential wars in order to destroy us. Remember, Israel and India were established as independent states in the same year, and Israel has had almost 10 wars to destroy it, something that India hasn't had to deal with. You've had your own conflicts, but not existential conflicts, and we have had existential wars. So we're pretty tough people, and we've been around for 3,000 years or much more, but we've been in this land for over 3,000 years, and we're not going to be going anywhere.
But, Ms. Nahum, all of this comes potentially at a huge human cost. Thousands of civilians have already died in Gaza. We know that in Beirut there are civilians dying. The costs of these wars, and it could also cost Israel, Jerusalem and Tel Aviv as well if it comes under attack. Is that something, therefore, this scale of human suffering, is that being factored in if this conflict reaches the point of no return?
Well, this could end tomorrow. All Hezbollah have to do is go north of the Litani River, as they should have done under Resolution 1701. They should have complied with that resolution, and the world let them completely forget that that resolution existed. Hamas could return the 101 hostages that are in their dungeons, and then it would all be over. So the ball is not on Israel's court. The ball is on the court of the proxies of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
But you see, Iran and its supporters will then turn back and say Israel has exercised disproportionate force, which has resulted in the killing of thousands of civilians in Gaza, that Israel has not fully ever recognized the Palestinian state, has pushed the Palestinians into a corner. That's the narrative they play. We have these two competing narratives, each one calling the other a terrorist organization, the other saying we are an axis of a war of resistance. Do these narratives really continue to play out now, or are we reaching the stage, as I said, of a final battle where it is a moment which could prove decisive, a kind of tipping point? Have we reached that tipping point now, Ms. Nahum?
I have no idea if it's the final battle. It's certainly a battle that we didn't want or we didn't start. On the 7th of October, we didn't want this war. We had a ceasefire with Hamas on the 6th of October. They broke that ceasefire. Did they think that they were going to come, behead our babies, rape our women, kill our children, and that we would just sit here? You know, the Jewish people have faced huge enemies over our thousands years old history. Huge enemies, and we're still here. So those people who think that they can destroy us, think again. We're small people, but we're very resilient, and we will fight until all our threats are eliminated. We've done it before. In 1948, we were outnumbered, we were outgunned. We had every single Arab country bordering in Israel, invading Israel in order to destroy the nascent state of Israel. And if we won then, we will win now.
Are you reasonably confident, though, that there could be a regime change as well in Iran? Is that what Israel is gunning for? As I said to my other guest, that's what's being hinted at by Prime Minister Netanyahu, that this is not a war against the Iranian people, it's against the Islamic regime there. Do you see that actually happening? Can Israel bring a regime change? And will that not be seen by the world as a violation in a way of Iran's sovereignty?
No, and I'll tell you why. 80% of the Iranian people don't want that regime that subjugates them, that kills women for showing a strand of hair. This is Islamic jihadi fundamentalism. And 80% of the Iranian people do not want that government. Let them decide what government it is without rigged elections and police forces that kill women and children on the street and hang homosexuals from cranes. Let them decide who their leaders are. These people are not legitimately, democratically elected leaders of the Iranian people. So there's no sovereignty issues here.
I want to ask you, though, in conclusion, do you believe that the world, and expressly the world fully stands behind you, including the Arab world? Do you believe that there are other Islamic countries that will stand behind Israel if tomorrow you enter a direct conflict with Iran?
Well, last night we had Jordanian planes helping Israel. We've had Saudi Arabians and the Emiratis admitting in April that they helped Israel on that night when they also launched hundreds of rockets. And so we're already seeing a glimpse of what could be the new Middle East.
You know, that's interesting. You believe that this could now redraw the contours of conflict in the Middle East, a kind of new Middle East with Iran being isolated even within the Islamic world. Is that what you're suggesting, that Iran and its so-called proxies could get isolated while Israel gets the support of the so-called moderate Arab nations? Is that something you're counting on?
The moderate Sunni Arab nations already understand that Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, and Islamic fundamentalism is the biggest threat facing the world. The West and the free world hasn't woken up to that yet, but the Sunni moderate Arab countries in the Gulf certainly have.
But the United States will probably also stand behind you. Do you see will this therefore be a joint US-Israel operation? If Iran were tomorrow to carry out attacks, continue to carry out attacks on Israeli soil, will we see Israel, United States working side by side to take on Iran or take on Tehran more directly?
Well, we've been working side by side the whole time. There were American warships in the Gulf helping last night as well. And so, yes, it's not a far-fetched idea to think that the liberal free world should come together to destroy the biggest threat to that world.
One final question, Ms. Nahum. India's role. Do you see India playing any kind of role at all? The Indian Prime Minister has spoken to Benjamin Netanyahu, called for de-escalation, called for efforts at restoring peace. Do you believe we have any leverage here in India? Can we play any role at all?
I think India is a very important friend of Israel. They have been for many years. It's a very important country. And I think that India also understands how poisonous Islamic fundamentalism is. So absolutely, I think they could play a key role.
In conclusion, ma'am, it's Israeli New Year, so a happy New Year. But are you entering this New Year with little reason to celebrate? Is this more a period of anger and fear as we approach the anniversary of what happened on October 7th? Has that completely changed in a way how Israelis also see the future now, much more concern and trepidation, or confidence and determination?
Well, we are facing the new year as traumatized people from an attack that we never expected. But like I said earlier, we're resilient people. And the celebrations for New Year are normally a family-oriented dinner and lunch and food celebrations, and we will be continuing those as we do every single year.
Flower Hassan Nahum, for joining me there from Jerusalem to give us the Israeli perspective. Appreciate you joining us, and stay safe. Let me now widen this. We will get guests from Tehran as well as from India. KC Singh, former Secretary, MEA, served in Tehran. Hossein Ghosh Khelagat is former Editor-in-Chief, Press TV, Tehran. And Jayan Krishna, Senior Fellow, Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. But I want to come to you first, to my guests from Iran. Hossein Ghosh Khelagat, how is Iran seeing what has played out in the last 24 hours? Benjamin Netanyahu saying Iran has made a big mistake. They will have to pay a heavy price for it.
Thank you so much for having me. As you know, Iranian state media reported over 200 missiles had been fired at Israel, including hypersonic weapons for the first time, which was for itself a big story even inside Iran. And as you know, Tuesday attack was Iran's second attack on Israel after a missile and drone attack in April in retaliation for the deadly Israeli strikes on the Iranian Consulate building in Damascus. We have also had warning by IRGC officials, including the Joint Chief of Staff of IRGC, which warned of more attacks if Israel goes ahead with attacking Iran. But what is important for now is what I want to mention is the reactions of the government supporters in Iran. Following the attack, the government supporters took to the streets nationwide to hail the IRGC for its retaliatory attack on Israel.
Are you saying a majority of Iranians are supporting what your regime is doing? Are majority supporting this?
No, I was just saying that government supporters took to the streets to hail IRGC for conducting the attack. And what you can see on social and state media right at the moment are footage of missile being fired at Israel. Moreover, state television is broadcasting images of residents of different Iranian cities celebrating missile attacks in streets, waving yellow flag of Hezbollah and portrait, and they actually are showing the images, the pictures, the portrait of the Lebanese
no, but do a majority, Hossein Ghosh Khelagat, I want this clear, do a majority of people of your country support taking on Israel in a direct conflict? Is this what you want?
I was just saying, this is my statement. What we saw, what we observed over the past 24 hours were these government supporters who took to the streets to hail the IRGC for conducting attack on Israel. And I have no idea about the number of people who took to the streets, but what I'm certain is that those who took to the streets were government supporters.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Casey Singh, we are playing these images of the streets of Tehran where you've got pictures of Nasrallah being held up, pictures of Khamenei being held up, and government supporters hitting the street, as Hossein Ghosh Khelgat said. Do you believe that this attack, Casey Singh, has widespread support in Tehran from your experience being there? Or is Israel banking on some element of discontent that could lead, they hope, to even internal discontent leading to a regime change?
Rajdeep, let me start by...
Yeah, go ahead,
Let me start by introducing two ironies. Cyrus the Great liberated the Jews 2,500 years ago from the imprisonment in Baghdad, and they were able to go back. So it was really an Iranian emperor who released the captivated Jews to return to their homeland. Now, ironically, again, it's Netanyahu who was on a very sort of on the back foot after October 7 last year, because there was an intelligence failure. He was very unpopular. There were popular protests. So the more the uncertainty, more risky the path he takes, less the danger to him losing power. And that is the problem, because he's gone on extending the area of conflict. And that has suited him because Israelis have now no option. They've protested against him because relatives of hostages have protested. But today he probably has a nation behind him. Same will happen in Iran. It's an ancient civilization, 3,000 years or more. Once you threaten them, the people will fall in behind the leaders. So the reverse will happen. And I'm sure Netanyahu knows it, but he doesn't care. His thing is to essentially use it to weaken his opponents and the surrogates of the Iranians. They've done it up to a point.
But he could say he's justified, Casey Singh, because of the kind of war that the proxies of Iran have launched against him. I mean, he could well claim that he's doing this as he is in some kind of self-defense.
Correct. But you must also remember that even the Chinese, though India has not said that, the Chinese called the first missile attack by Iran on Israel as self-defense. And as we are talking now, the UN Security Council is meeting. There's an emergency meeting. And the representative of Russia, I didn't hear the representative of China, the representative of France also was for ceasefire. They're not fully supporting Netanyahu in what he's doing.
Right.
They're saying, hey, this needs to stop. And I think the general mood in the Security Council is that America, there's a window available to Netanyahu. American elections are just a month away. Biden is lame duck. Netanyahu is hoping that Trump comes in. I don't think Kamala Harris is that supportive of Netanyahu as Trump would be. And therefore, there is a window of the next 4 weeks, which Netanyahu wants to utilize to achieve his objective, which is to hit the nuclear facilities of Iran. Now, what happens is, I think it's been mentioned that Iran has conveyed silently to the West that if our oil facilities or our infrastructure is hit, we'll even go after US allies in the Gulf, which means then that is of concern to India, because if all oil export from the Gulf stops, you can imagine the chaos here. So therefore, when Prime Minister spoke only to Netanyahu, I was very surprised, because we don't get into this. The Chinese president, Xi hasn't got into this.
I'm going to just stop you for a moment, Casey, just to get your video. We are having a slight problem with the network. Let me just get back to you. But Jain Krishna, you're hearing what is being said by Casey Singh. The United States is obviously a major stakeholder, particularly if now this involves Iran. So far, the US has made it very clear they stand behind Israel. If tomorrow Israel decides to hit a nuclear installation or an oil installation in Iran and this spirals out of control, what do you realistically see the United States doing?
So Rajdeep, it's a very volatile situation. It appears as if the world is on the brink. Those of you of us who have been watching social media, we know people are talking about a possibility of a World War III. I mean, that seems to me extremely far-fetched. But yes, those kind of possibilities are being talked about. And as you rightly said, it is not just bombarding their nuclear installations, destroying their nuclear capability, but even they could go to an extent of insisting on a regime change in Iran, which is also their economy could be very, very badly damaged.
But do you see that happening? Are you really seeing that in the short term Israel will go to the extent of targeting nuclear and oil installations and pushing for a regime change?
I hope that doesn't happen, and I hope that US prevails upon them for a ceasefire. And also I hope UN Security Council is meeting, that there's a UN resolution for whatever it means. The fact is,
but the UN seems completely, if I may be allowed to use the word, almost impotent at the moment in stopping the fight.
Which is very unfortunate, Rajdeep, because it seems to be going the League of Nations way. But in such a situation, whatever needs to happen, I mean, the US pressure on Israel for a ceasefire, the UN resolution, other senior leaders all over the world, if they impress upon them, then the retaliation may not be as harsh as people are talking about, or all Israeli leaders have been talking about. Because let us understand, nobody wins a war. Both sides lose a war. It's only the question of extent of losses on both sides that may vary, So I think to my mind, the wise sense must prevail, and Israel, the world must prevail upon Israel not to progress with the war and not to go for, the kind of hostilities which people are talking about, including their nuclear installations and oil fields and so on and so forth. I fundamentally believe, otherwise the world is going to pay a very, very heavy price. We have seen in the last 1 year or so, the crisis which has been going on in that region, right. Thousands of lives have been lost, civilian structures have been damaged, strategic structures have been damaged. Nobody wins a war. That's a fact. That's a reality.
Can I therefore ask you, KC Singh, in conclusion, what's your best case and worst case scenario? I think more and more Indians certainly are concerned with the worst case. What's your worst case scenario? What's your best case scenario?
Worst case scenario is that they go after the nuclear facilities and they also hit the oil facilities. Then there'll be a retaliation, because we'll see the Iranians go after the oil facility, maybe Saudi Arabia, in the Gulf, or they'll try stopping the oil trade from Gulf if their own oil trade is disrupted. The medium-term, reasonable kind of conclusion is Iranians will hit back. But remember one thing, we are told nobody's died in Iran, in Israel, other than one Palestinian. Now the reports which are coming in, and media is not carrying them. That is the other unfortunate thing. That bulk of the missiles which have landed at the Israeli air bases and near the Mossad headquarters. I don't think Iranians were targeting civilians. Therefore, the retaliation may be similar. There may be attack on some of the facilities, because Israel has to retaliate, even to satisfy their own public opinion. But if Netanyahu goes all the way, it's possible he has an extreme right-wing coalition, and if he finds he's getting support from the public, he may just widen it. And then, of course, in these 4 weeks, when we have a lame duck US president and nothing much happening, I think anything can happen.
But so you're saying the next 1 month becomes critical, because that provides a window to Netanyahu in a way, with the US caught up in its presidential elections, to take the kind of options that he wants. But Hossein Khosh Khelgat, give us again a view. How do Iranians see what is happening? Tell us how is the media in Iran, which is very controlled by your government, how is it reporting it? How are they seeing what is playing out? Is it seeing Nasrullah as some kind of a martyr, a hero? How are they seeing what is happening? How do they see Israel?
Exactly. If just you take a look at the state media, state television these days, it's full of footage of celebrations, of footage of Nasrullah, of fire, of missiles being fired on Israel. It's all about the state television. Even state-funded newspapers are the same. That's all about
So they think targeting Israel with missiles, they think it's an occasion to celebrate.
Exactly. It's for when it comes to state media, it's an occasion to celebrate because the government authorities were under heavy pressure by state media, by government supporters to act, retaliate the Israeli operations in Lebanon, Israeli operation in Tehran, which led to the death of Ismail Haniyeh. It was the government was under mounting pressure to do something, and after the missile attack on Israel, these government supporters and even government supporters on the state media use the occasion to celebrate and
so you're saying it's an occasion. I take your point. You're saying it's an occasion to celebrate. Now that should make it also worrying in a way. Jayan Krishna, America in the middle of a presidential election. How is the US seeing it at the moment? Do you sense concern, or is the primary focus on who wins November 5th and then we'll see what happens?
See, I have a feeling, Rajdeep, in these kind of war-like situations, you can't wait for 1 month for the presidential elections to get over, So I think they would try their best. Howsoever, weak the president is said to be. But the fact is, Biden would try to prevail upon them and diffuse the situation rather than it to escalate. Because if it escalates, it doesn't do him any good any good to Kamala Harris in the elections at all. So I see they would do, while their entire focus is on the campaign and on the fundraising, but the fact is that they can ill afford if a full-fledged war breaks out between the two nations. I believe they will do everything it takes to diffuse the situation and insist on, prevail upon Israel to agree for a ceasefire.
Yeah, but that's, it's so far not worked, KC Singh. And there is the other angle that I just want to explore before I conclude, which is the moderate Arab nations and the so-called axis of, the axis that Iran has built. The axis of resistance. How do you see that playing out? Do you see tensions widening within the Arab world if this continues to escalate in this manner?
No, these are mostly autocratic governments in the Gulf as well as in West Asia. And don't forget one thing, the governments may be secretly very happy because they fear Iran and they fear their influence in the Shia crescent. But the street may be behaving differently. The common Arab on the street would empathize with the Palestinians, would empathize with the Iranians, because the Palestinians are not Shias. The Hezbollah are Shias. So therefore, the minute the Palestinian issue comes in, the Arab street would be certainly supportive of Iran and not of their own governments. And they would be aware of it. So therefore, that's why they'll be quiet. The next question will be, if an aerial attack takes place, the planes have to overfly some Arab countries, because Israel is far away from Iran. So is it Jordan? Is it UAE, Saudi Arabia? So which is the countries which allow it? I mean, that would be another question, which can then create a sort of turmoil within their own countries, not in the Gulf, but certainly in Egypt or Jordan. Jordanian king is already on the back foot, and there are a lot of Palestinians living in Jordan. Jordan has intervened in the past to shoot down the missiles, Iranian missiles, going over Jordan. Now, will they participate or be seen as complicit in Iranian facilities being attacked? I don't know. It just remains to be seen. But the most vulnerable will be the Jordanian regime.
Very, very interesting how this is playing out. And we expect, of course, more developments to take place. The United Nations Security Council is meeting as we speak. But as we've seen, the UN Security Council has been almost powerless over the last year to stop the bloodletting that's taken place on both sides, and their inability to ensure either Israel or indeed Iran are able to restrain them at the moment. So it appears who will play the peacemaker, that is a huge question, and there doesn't seem to be any sign at the moment of peace, particularly after yesterday's attack on Israel. You've heard from the Israeli perspective, you've heard about the celebrations taking place in Iran, and you're hearing from our expert guests warning of the short-term, medium-term and long-term consequences of all that's happened in the last 24 to 48 hours. I'll leave it there. I appreciate all my guests joining me. We'll, of course, continue to track this big story. Let's turn now to our election special today. Haryana is voting on Saturday. And the woman vote could be crucial in an election where the Congress is fighting to dislodge the BJP, which has been in power for 10 years there now. Tonight's special report comes from Preeti Chaudhary on the campaign trail in Haryana.
On the campaign trail, I meet my friend and colleague, Sonia, who is also from Haryana. Both of us trying to gauge the women voters' mind.
नहीं थारा जीवन किस तरीके का रहा है?
हमारा जीवन ऐसा रहा भाई गधे का भी अच्छा।
अच्छा आपका जीवन गधे का जीवन भी अच्छा। ऐसा क्यों?
ना तो हमने सरकार ने मदद दी, ना हमने सासू ससुराल मदद दी, ना हमने बेटा बहुआ ने मदद दी। हमने मदद नहीं दी कोई। हमारा 4 हाथ पैर चलना है, 2 पैर पानी ले लो भाई, कमा के खाओ, पानी पी लो। सरकार ने भाई है ना, मोदी सरकार ने हमने यो दिया है भाई, 1 सिलेंडर दिए और ये गेहूं देश या मदद तो हमने दे मोदी सरकार तो मिल रही है। बाकी हमने नहीं मिली कोई लैटरिन का, बाथरूम का, कोई मकान का, कोई कुछ नहीं मिला। हम तो लखपतियां भर्ती करा के थे।
लखपतियां में भर्ती करा के थे, मतलब लखपति दीदी। हाँ फिर
भाई कि मिला है कौन? तो हम लखपति
नहीं मिला।
ये बनवाया से मैं बता दी रुपया तो बहु मेरी कंडम
और जाके देखो उसकी हालत, चल नहीं जा उसके कने 3
बेटा मेरा सह नहीं के काम आई सरकार
बेटा ही पीछे।
तो जब आप वोट गिरो तो किसकी मान का वोट गिरो? आपके आदमी की, घर की, परिवार की, अपनी मर्जी तो भाई
माननी तो देव टाइम पर सबकी पड़ जाए भाई, घर परिवार की माननी पड़ जाए, देवता की माननी पड़ जाए, आदमी की। आदमी तो ले मेरा तो 15 साल हो गए, माननी तो पड़ेगा से भाई। नू कहेंगा बड़ा आके भाई उसका उधर गए दो। हाँ उधर गए।
From politics, the conversation quickly turns to life. Life as a woman in this state.
तो उस समय 15-15 साल की जो छोरी होती है उनका ब्याह कर दिया करें थे।
हाँ 15 साल की तो सासरा है जंदी।
अच्छा
25 साल की का कौन करे?
अच्छा तो ताई उस समय
ये 25 साल की ना करे कौन करे?
तो अच्छा
सही है कि अच्छा है कि गलत है? गलत से 15 की कर देनी चाहिए ना। ठीक से ले बेचारी उरा आज का जमाना देखे गलत से। क्यों गलत से? 25 साल की वो पढ़े लिखा सब वो कदे किससे गली जाएंगे, कदे किससे।
जैसे कि
कब करनी चाहिए फिर ताई शादी? कब करनी? 20 साल का बालक 22 का हो इतना करनी चाहिए। 19 साल की को करना चाहिए। 19 साल की कर देनी चाहिए। और बाकी तो छोरा है छोरी दोनों की। मैं भी आली तय भी आली भाई तो करने लगी।
तो फिर हम इतनी कम उम्र में अगर ब्याह करावेंगे तो हमारी पढ़ाई लिखाई, हमारा रोजगार
तो फिर पढ़े जाइयो बटे उगे तब नाटेगा।
तो फिर उनका घर का काम करेंगे या पढ़ेंगे?
करना पड़ेगा। हमने को नहीं करया कदे। काम तो सब करते आए हुए भी कर ले।
काम भी करो, पढ़ो भी, सारी चीज।
आप घूंघट कम हुआ के अभी भी सब घूंघट काट रही है? घूंघट काट
पढ़ी लिखी भी घूंघट करे।
जेठा का
बोलने को नहीं मारा।
अच्छा जैसे
घूंघट प्रथा चल रही है भारत।
अभी भी घूंघट प्रथा चल रही है?
अभी भी वही रूल है पहले वाले।
वाई थी
नहीं आपने जो कर आप घूंघट में हो तो कदे नु जी करे के लिए मैं भी बाल खुले छोड़ा हम भी
मोगरे खाने से।
मोगरे कौन मारेगा? मोगरे
घर वाले मार दे। घूंघट नहीं काट दे कोई तो।
अच्छा
अपनी बहुओं को ना कराओ फिर हम तो कराओ, फिर हम कराएंगे। फिर आप क्यों नहीं आपकी कराओगे तो आप अपनी बहुओं के कराओगे? अरे तो हम करने लग रहे तो बहू भी करो। करेंगी फिर बदलेगा कैसे? बदलाव कैसे आएगा? बदला कैसे? तीसरी पीढ़ी हुआ देखी जाएगी।
And then, to forget about the troubles, a little song and dance.
We'll wait and see who has the last say when it comes to dancing on the 8th of October. That's when counting will take place in Haryana. Let me leave you though with our good news today's story, because the DRDO, together with researchers of IIT Delhi, have developed a lightweight bulletproof jacket named Abhed, which offers 360 degrees protection. Jackets meet the highest threat level and are lighter than the maximum weight limit stipulated in respective qualitative requirements of the Indian Army. Take a look at this report. Stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubhratri, Jai Hind, Namaskar.
The DRDO and IIT Delhi have developed two types of advanced bulletproof jackets for the army. While one is capable of blocking AK-47 bullets, the other gives protection against snipers. Both jackets have been named Abhed. The designers claim that the jackets weigh less than the versions currently used by the army.
Confidently, 8 का चैलेंज कर रहे हैं, जबकि टेस्टेड वो 13 गोलियों के लिए।
13 गोलियां भी मारी जा सकती हैं, तो उसको भी रोकने की क्षमता है इनमें, तो ये अभेद है।
The defense scientists claim that the jackets can block up to 8 bullets.
ये वो टेस्टिंग प्लेट है जिसपे एक्चुअली AK-47 की बुलेट्स मारी गई हैं, उसके निशान आपको ये दिख रहे हैं। ये जो ब्लैक कलर की हैं ये बुलेट्स के निशान हैं।
और इसमें पीछे से मतलब कोई भी परफोरेशन नहीं आया, और ये आप देख सकते हैं कि बैक फेस जो इसका परफोरेशन है बहुत ही कम हुआ है।
The bulletproof jackets underwent stringent tests.
जो हमारी मशीन की कैपेसिटी है वो 1000 टन का प्रेशर देती है, ये फोर्स देती है, और जो इसका टेम्परेचर जाता है वो 450 डिग्री सेल्सियस तक जाता है। तो यहाँ पे एक बेसिक हार्ड पैनल जो होता है वो हमारा बन के तैयार होता है।
DRDO and IIT will transfer the technology to 3 companies which will manufacture them. With Manish Chaurasia, Bureau Report, India Today.